was Mario Kart. Yep. I got the Nintendo 64 for Christmas. Was till this day, I would say, the best Christmas gift I ever got. I was so excited when for me and Entgrove, my parents got us a Nintendo 64. And that entire Christmas break, we did nothing but play Mario Kart. It was so much fun. Super Mario World and N64 only. Nice. Yeah. Oh, there's some good memories. A lot of us have childhood memories with Mario. That movie's going to do well. Hopefully it's good. But, I mean, either way, it's going to fucking blow out the box office the day it comes out. I started on OG Nintendo. Nice. Yeah, my first console was N64. It was a good one.
Welcome back. Okay, it's time for macros. These often get overlooked, but there are some serious gains to be made by understanding and using a few of them. We've got some that you can use straight out of the box. There's even potential DPS gains for pet classes like DK, Hunter, and Warlock, as well as ways to make the game far easier to control and ways to have a lot of fun. So let's get the most useful ones out of the way first. After today's sponsor, us. It's us. Look,
he's sponsoring
our patrons
himself.
are a massive part of making this all possible.
Holy shit.
Here is this month's loot, and there's also a special, so you get even more. It's a hell of a lot, and it's all from our game development team. But hey, there's more. We've also got the Lore
I might be a
Walking
little
podcast,
old,
where you will find
but lady
hours
never tells
of
their age.
in-depth lore content, early access,
Not
of
old.
course, to upcoming videos, a few of which are there now.
It's like a fine wine.
It is the best way to help us out, and you get cool stuff in return. So, patrons, thank you. And if you would like to join up, then you can click that link below.
There you go.
Cursor and player macros.
You are classic.
Having to click again for ground targeted ability sucks, so just use a macro like this. Now, this is a game changer
for
things like Blizzard, Effervescence, Heroic Leap, stuff like that. Sometimes, though, your mouse isn't actually where you think it is. So,
yeah, I've had that happen.
This drops it at your feet instead. You can use this for things like Death and Decay.
This is actually great for Mythic Plus. Holy shit. I might use this. Use this for Death and Decay, and it just casts it right underneath you?
Obviously, not that good for a Heroic Leap. And also, by the way, the hash show tooltip.
You use that to underfreeze? I don't. Even when most of the time I do want to drop it right underneath me, but I click it and then click on the screen. You use that too, Achilles? Really? Man, I gotta get my shit together then.
Spell that
I gotta create this macro.
Just in case you were wondering, it's very handy. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, hang on a second, does
hey,
this just mean I can pick a target in a macro? Yeah, it does. And there's a whole bunch of ways you can specify targets, but unfortunately, only the @player one works with ground target.
I never thought of using the @player in a macro. Yeah, neither did I.
Otherwise. For everything else, though, yeah, there's player, mouse over, target, focus, pet, party N, raid N, arena N, boss N, where N is the position in the keyframes, and even specific player names. Note, though, we largely leave mouse over stuff out of this video because Blizzard actually
There's a lot of those great macros out there. I don't use macros, believe it or not.
You can still use it for anything custom that you're making.
I don't. I
as
probably
well
should.
As just these, you can even select the target of any of these by adding target. So say you have a boss on focus and you want to drop a quick heal on whoever the boss is hitting. You could just make a macro like this. Since focus target is going to be the tank, this will just cast Healing Surge on them.
What's great about that is if we're doing like tank swapping, right, back and forth a lot during a boss fight, if you have this macro, you'll always heal the tank that's being hit. That's pretty interesting. That's a good one for healers. You don't have to worry about who's the current tank that is holding aggro. You just use this macro and it'll always hit the one that the boss is focused on.
Great, right?
Damn.
Or if you raid with the same people as a priest or a druid and always drop PI or innervate in the same person, you could just write a macro instead of having to manually target them, right? That would be pretty damn handy. It's less things for you to worry about, right? This is the power of macros. And then if you're a particularly lazy raid logging healer, you can even macro your DPS abilities to always target the boss in a fight. Waste of a keybind, but possible, and you can combine it with some other stuff.
Yeah, just save that sucker. Yeah, that's a good one.
Now, modifiers then. The part in brackets is called a conditional, and macros can accept multiple of them to make smart decisions based on what conditionals return true. Here's an example of a target and modifier working together, right? So, /cast modifier shift @focus power word shield. So this translates to, if the shift key is held, target the focus with power word shield. If the shift key is not held, use the next bracket, which is empty. So that would just mean whatever the normal logic is, as if you just pressed the silence button itself. Valid modifiers for these are Control,
that's a
Shift,
silencing?
and Alt. The button itself, normal logic is
Mod
as if you just pressed the silence button itself. Valid modifiers for these are Control, Shift,
I feel like
and
I'm
Alt.
playing
You
like
can
at a
even use this
disadvantage
for
without
different
using these at
abilities,
this
right?
point.
Like this with Black Powder and Eviscerate, where essentially if you bound this to, say, the R key, then a sub-rogue could swap between finishers, but
you
would
for
only
playing
be
this. No
using
problem. Yeah,
one
it
action
is
bar
amazing.
slot.
It's helping
Maybe
me
hold
too.
Shift for AoE, hold nothing for single target. Using these in combat is entirely personal preference based on how you want your own action bars to look.
Think of each
it
bracket
can be
as an
kind of
action,
awkward making
with an order
macros
being
when there
already
are
Use
just enough action
another
bars.
Death Knight.
Kurdargo, thank you so much for the 2 gifted subs. Congratulations on getting the pet. I really appreciate that. That means a lot, man. Thank you so much.
Another Death Knight.
Big Skyless and Riga DK, congratulations. You are now Death Knights of our Scourge, thanks to Kurdargo, and his
To
gifted
keybind
subs.
the
Thank you
combos
so much.
instead, but they can definitely help for target selection. Now, the most universally useful version of this, though, is probably for mounts. So take a look at this. It's really a pretty awesome one. You can just put this on one button and have all of your mounts be on that one button. If you hold Shift, that'll be your Dragon Riding mount. Control will be your Transmog Yak. Alt could be your Auction Dinosaur. And no
Holy.
modifier could be Invincible, if you've got it. Pretty damn handy, but we can go further. Dragonflight
you've got
removed
it.
the old talent conditional, but it
That's a
did
pretty cool
replace it
mount
with a new
mod
one
there.
called Known that checks if your character knows a spell. So now we can do crazy stuff like
Servers are up,
this,
great. We'll get in right
right?
as soon as the
So
video's done.
This is fun. So in addition to the above, it also checks 3 things. 1, if your character doesn't actually know how to use a mount, it will summon the chauffeur chopper instead, right? No matter what you hold down. Next, if you hold Shift but haven't learned Dragon Riding yet,
This is
it'll
a
just
complicated
default to your
one.
normal
I'm not
mount.
gonna lie.
But before it
just copy and
uses
paste it,
your
though.
usual mount, it will check to see if you've got travel form and use that instead. So one button for your every movement need. You can also
That'll
add
clear up, like my
flyable-
side action bar right now, the one that's over here has like 6 mounts in it,
if you
so
want
that'd
to
be pretty
use
cool.
a flying mount when you can fly, and
No
a ground
cap servers
mount
are up.
otherwise.
Okay, I believe
now,
you
before
guys.
we move on to the DPS ones,
get it as soon as the video's
known
done.
conditional can be used for a few more things. Say you have a choice talent node like Incapacitating Roar or Mighty Bash. As a druid, you could do a macro like this, which would basically let you use one button to stun or disrupt an enemy based on which one of those spells that you actually know. The only caveat here is that it does show as a question mark if you have neither. It used to render.
Oh, so
fine
this-
just
that
when you
button will
dragged an
adjust based on
unlearned
your
talent to the
spec.
bar, but seems
That's
that
pretty
broke.
cool.
Now, over in Fury Warrior, there's another pretty damn nifty use case. So, if a Fury Warrior knows Annihilator, this button will be Slam. If they don't, it will be Raging Blow. Technically, the talent Storm of Swords
Yeah, that's cool.
adds Slam into your rotation, but you'll always take Annihilator with it anyway. This basically means that you can change a talent without having to mess around with your hotbars. Pretty
Yeah.
neat. Obviously, a talent loadout will shift your hotbars with it, but when you're manually tinkering or just have a weird setup, little things like this work perfectly. Okay, let's increase your DPS. You can macro
Here we
a
go,
bunch of
DPS
stuff
macro.
together, but only if one of the abilities is on the global cooldown. That might seem a bit restrictive, but why press 2 or 3 buttons when you can press only 1? So here's an example. This one uses Shadow Dance and Symbols of Death at the same time as Rogue. Generally speaking,
How's that
if
for
you
rogues?
have both
Joshua,
Shadow Dance
our
and
resident
Symbols
rogue.
up, you will want to press both of these at the same time. Now, this itself doesn't even trigger the global cooldown, since neither are on the global cooldown, so technically you could even take this a step further and add in Shadow Strike afterwards.
Holy crap,
Now, there's
one
a
click,
tiny
3
bit of lag
abilities.
between pressing Shadow Dance and your action bar letting
a nice
you press
opener.
the Shadow Strike button, but macroing it actually means it'll go off immediately, potentially even letting you fit an extra attack into the Shadow Dance window. You'll still want to
I'm not
press
that lazy,
Shadow
yeah.
Strike with a different button at other times, but this could be a great way to get a bit of a win. And if you don't want to use Shadow Strike, you could
In Cataclysm,
just press
Beast Mastery
this
Hunter had
button
one button
while your
macro
global
for the
cooldown
whole
is rolling,
rotation.
and everything except for it will cast. If you want to be totally nuts, you could even go further by using your trinkets. You can use items directly with /use and then a slot number. So yeah, you can just do this so that you're trying to use your trinket every time.
So Reyna, you're an intense macro maker, it looks like. That's a wild one.
Pressed. Now you can macro trinkets with most of your cooldowns this way, working best with when the cooldowns actually synchronize with each other. It might not be optimal every time, but if you find yourself like forgetting,
I feel like I'm
trinket
inefficiently playing the game now.
Then yeah, this is definitely worth it. To move on then, these next pet macros are pretty cool as well.
Pet macros.
For hunters, this will actually tell your pet to start attacking your barbed shot target immediately, and it will force the pet to use its basic attack if it has that ready to go. This can actually circumvent the occasional bit of lag time that it takes basically for your pet to decide to attack.
Right, yeah.
And it also forces them
upping
to
your
instantly
DPS
swap
by a
targets.
tiny bit, probably.
Back in 2011, this was apparently a few
fuck that
percentage
code lines,
DPS
yeah.
game,
It does look like
but
a
it's
code line.
probably a hell of a lot less now. Realistically, this should more or less just be on most of your regular abilities as a BM or SV hunter, or at the very least just on the ones that you open and press most. Now, this also works with Unholy DKs and Warlocks, so here are some example macros. The Warlock one is really long because it needs to try every pet ability, so that's why it looks just a little bit ridiculous. And if you struggle with keybinds, then this next one is for you. So this is awesome. This macro uses Smite if you're targeting
that
an
wasn't
enemy,
refreshing
but it
up there,
uses
the
Flash
subs.
Heal otherwise. Basically, harm and help are valid conditions. So if you're targeting an enemy, harm is true. If you're targeting an ally, help is true. These also work with mouse over, though you do need to give it a...
So that's one button that you could use for an enemy or a friendly character.
Few clauses like this to make sure that it catches everything. So mouse over
That is
help,
a nice
mouse
one.
over harm,
Yeah.
target harm, then the heal spell. Kind of
Yeah,
awkward,
while I was
but it
back up,
does
yeah,
work.
people told me I'm going to go
Now,
in as soon as this video's over.
You can run this to use important keybinds as hybrid DPS and healing spells, which could save you some pretty damn vital keybinding space on the specs that really do end up feeling just crammed with buttons.
Hey, Ray.
Now, the
How's it
opposite
going?
is also useful for DPS players who want to be able to off-heal or heal themselves. The key is to just swap the order around. For hunters, mages, and paladins, then, this next part is also pretty damn vital. Cancel aura macros. These just make your life so much easier. Of course, you cannot attack during Aspect of the Turtle or Ice Block, and sometimes Divine Shield and Blessing of Protection make the mobs that you're tanking or fighting just behave weirdly. This means you may want to remove
So it's a
these
cancel
earlier
and
than they will
cast macro.
expire, and these macros do just that. And the reason that we place Cancel Aura first is that the first time you press the button, it will try to cancel, fail, and then cast the spell.
Interesting.
The next time you press it, it will successfully cancel the aura.
What level is the DK?
Mages,
70.
You can optionally add
He's
a
capped.
/cast blink at the end if you want to make sure that you instantly escape whatever danger you ice block yourself in. Now, to round us off, a few little bits of fun. So this time Druid specific, and it relies on the spec conditional. It takes you into the appropriate form with just one button. Unless you're, of course, Resto, in which case it cancels your form, which is all the same thing. It can also be changed to
Druids,
use
I guess, can
Treant
use a
form
lot of
if
shit.
you prefer. Now, you can also use this to change action bar contents based on form if the first action bar paging is not enough for you. So pretty damn sweet for the Druids. There's also the stealth conditional, then there's also stats, which includes warrior stances, paladin auras, shadow dance, and then form, which handles nearly everything else. So warriors,
I started my bunk,
they
been
can
busy
actually get
with
to
work
stance
till now.
stance
I just hit
with,
caps
just
this morning.
one
I've been
button,
busy
like
too.
with this macro,
So I get it, no
which is pretty
worries.
Sweet. Rogues also get to use one button for their stealth attacks here. Make sure to bind Ambush separately on Outlaw, since with the talent you can get Ambush procs without being stealthed.
More Rogue?
Sub, of course, though.
Man, I feel like Rogues, there's a lot of macros for Rogues.
And Shadow Priests can also make sure they're in Shadow form before using an ability with a macro like this one. And that's basically it for macros, at least without getting into sort of crazy niche possibilities. and
Like
some
the
stuff
total
that,
rotation and
the
cataclysm for beast
add-on
mastery
stuff,
hunters.
Allows. The benefits of macro toolkit, or looking for one button macros that gnome sequencer enables. We'll leave that kind of thing
Nice.
for another day.
Yeah.
This is really just
Very
to give you
cool,
your basic
interesting
kit
video.
to allow you to have a better time
I'll link this in
Dragonflight
chat,
without using any
in
more
case you missed
add-ons,
one of the
and we
macros
certainly
that you wanna
recommend just
use.
about all of these things. So let me know if we've sparked some sort of
There it is.
macro idea.
Very
Let me
cool.
know down in the comments what macros you're actually
Then
using,
always
and all
use
of these and a
another
few more are
Death
available
Knight.
in the document.
Till, thank you so much. Tilliston, thank you so much for the sub. You are now a Death Knight of our Scourge. I appreciate that.
That is
Thank you,
linked in
thank
the
you.
video description. So
All right, let's get back into
make
the
use
game.
of it, have fun, and enjoy.
Good video.